essentially, as you see, I've already kind of mapped out a lot of what's going on in this mission. I know that we're going to start here. We're going to move to the objective area, deal with that situation, and then move right back to our exfiltration point for mission end. Okay? So our mission already, even with nothing down on the map yet, is already starting to take shape. Okay? So first things first, what I like to do is start with the basics. Start with the playable units. Okay? So what I may do here is I may go to blue 4, and I need to set down the playable units. So you need to know how many people are playing your mission. We're going to do this as a 2-player cooperative mission. Okay, so what that means is I'm going to set down 2 just riflemen at this point. You can set down whatever you want though. So I'll set down 1 rifleman, and then I'll set down another rifleman. Now, important thing to note, this rifleman has 2 red outlines around his player circle. It's a little hard to see, but it's right there. You can see it a little easier if I zoom in on it on the map screen. Okay, you see the 2 red circles. That means it's a playable unit and it's marked for the player. This guy doesn't have any circles. So first thing I'm going to do is double click on him, which will bring up his attributes. Okay. Right here you'll see control, object control. We're going to set it to playable. Okay, that means that someone can play as this role in the lobby. Okay, you'll see it added 2 blue circles around them. Now the one with the red circles, if I double click on that, you'll see he's playable, but he's marked as the player, as in a single player experience, which is totally fine, so we can leave that. Usually when I build missions, my main player controlled role is marked with the red circles, as in a player role and playable role, and then all the other roles that other people can play are the double blue circles. Okay. So we have our 2 riflemen. Okay. The next thing I might do is add a little ambiance to this start point. Okay, so I might go to the boats, because we know they came in on boat. Now when you set down a vehicle in ARMA, you'll see down here it says place vehicles or crew. You can check that or uncheck it. I usually leave it checked because when you place a vehicle, it'll already put a unit in it. Okay. However, there's a pretty easy way to place those vehicles while keeping this checked, but with no units, and that's just by holding down the Alt button. You notice I'm pressing Alt right now, and it's changing the color of my drop-down. When it's blue, that means it's controlled by a blue force soldier. When it switches off of blue, that means it's not controlled by anyone, it's just an empty vehicle. So I'm going to place it down as an empty vehicle. I'm holding Alt down, press my left trigger, or my left mouse button. Now I have an empty vehicle. Okay? And that happens with anything. If I come over here, place down a car, say a quad bike, if I just place it down, it's going to have a soldier on it. Okay? If I click on it, but then hold Alt down, it's going to place it down with no soldier on it. Okay? Pretty straightforward. So, I'm going to take my boat here, which is kind of awkwardly floating in the water here. I'm going to move it to shore, okay? Probably right in here. As if they drove it up on the beach, okay? What I may also do here, and you can move objects around just by clicking on them and dragging along your mouse. You can move them up and down by holding down Alt and dragging with your mouse. And you can rotate them by holding down Shift and moving with your mouse. Okay? So you hold down Shift, click on the object with your left mouse button, and just rotate it however you want. Okay? Sometimes ARMA physics can come into play, and you see how the sand is poking through the boat? When I start this mission, that weird interaction may cause this boat to go flipping out of control. So to alleviate that, I just raise it up a little bit. And when the mission starts, the boat will kind of naturally fall into place with the physics, the ARMA 3 physics engine. Okay? Back it up just a little bit. Alright, there we go. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Okay? So that's the boat that came in. So I'm going to take my 2 soldiers and grab them. Now another thing I can do here is, right now these are just 2 individual units labeled as Alpha 1-1 and Alpha 1-2. Now, I can group these guys by holding down the control button, which switches my cursor there. See how it switches it? And then clicking on the unit and dragging, you'll see this little connection line. If I drag it to this unit, they're now a group, okay? And you can tell because now there's not two options up here for an alpha group, there's only one, Alpha 1-1. So now these guys are both Alpha 1-1, okay? If I hover my mouse over this line right here, this connection line, and hit delete, now they're going to be back to two groups, Alpha 1-1 and Alpha 1-2, okay? So for the sake of this mission, I'm going to group them. So they're Alpha 1-1, okay? Now, if you want to further name this group so that it shows up uniquely in the editor or in the game lobby, you can just double-click there, and under let's see, what is that called? Role description. You can just call that, you know, maybe we call it Saber Squad. There you go. Just the Saber Squad. All right. So we have our guys. Now, what we may want to do is give them the ability to kind of change some gear, okay? Now, you can load in the ARMA virtual arsenal into an object, so, and that's generally how I like to do it. So what you're going to do that is, you know, we have our options over here on the right-hand side, all of our assets from Blue 4, Op 4, Independent, Civilian, and Props. That's under the objects category. There's also a compositions category, which would be groups of objects. So there's, you know, entire fire teams you can lay down, whatnot for these different playable factions. But then in props, there's certain pre-built things like roadblocks and stuff. Okay. There's triggers, waypoints, systems. We'll get into all that. Let's go back to objects and go back to props. What we're going to do is go down to supplies. And you can also search for this. So if you're looking for something you just don't know where it's at, you can always type general words in here like ammo or supplies or weapons, and it will pull the stuff up for you. I just happen to know where a lot of it is. So under supplies, we'll go to ammo. And in here, you'll see a bunch of different type of ammo boxes. So we're going to lay a few things down for our soldiers, okay? We're going to lay down a NATO equipment box, okay? We're going to lay down maybe a uniform box, okay? And maybe maybe we'll do basic ammo, and we'll do basic weapons. Pretty straightforward. That's going to give us some options here, okay? Alright, there we go. So we have a little start point here, okay? Now, if you do want to add sort of a virtual arsenal box, you can grab any of these boxes here, and hopefully this works. It's been a while since I've done this vanilla, but you can place down a supply box. You can double click on it, and you can enter in the virtual arsenal code in the init box, or you can go into equipment storage here and add pretty much everything if you wanted. You can add quantity amounts, or you can make it a virtual thing to where there's infinite amounts of whatever here. So you can click that, and then we'll add infinite amounts of carry all green, just like a virtual arsenal thing. So you can kind of whitelist objects if you want. So more on that later, and there's also easier ways to do that, and again we'll get into that here shortly. Okay, so we got a little Blue 4 starting area. Okay. So we're going to go over to our objective area now. Alright, so now we need to start adding some enemies. And the first thing you need to do is kind of figure out which enemies you want to start with. We're going to go with Op 4 here. As a vanilla setup here, you should have three options: the FIA, CSAT Pacific, and CSAT. If you don't own Apex, actually, you won't have Pacific. But you should own Apex. We'll start with the FIA. I like them in terms of their force strength and their equipment and stuff. So we'll go into men, and we're just going to start adding some guys. To Typically, what I like to do is place, you know, a rifleman at the front gate, you know, as kind of a guard. And remember, when you place a unit, you can hold down Alt to raise or lower them. You can move them around just by clicking and holding. You can hold down Shift and click and drag around for them to rotate. Okay, so I just like to do general placement right now. Don't think too long and hard about, you know, scenarios. And sometimes I like to vary it up a little bit. So if I put a rifleman over here, maybe I'll put a grenadier over here. Okay, so we got 2 gate guards here. Not a problem. Maybe we want a tower guard as well, so maybe I'll do a sharpshooter for that. And you see how when I kind of hover over this area of the tower, I get like the red mark with a floor. That means he's on that level. Arma's editor's pretty smart about figuring out which terrain you're trying to put him on, as long as you get your camera in the right place. So I'll place him there. You see he's pointed the wrong way, so we'll click Shift and drag, turn him around. So now we've got a tower guard right up here. Okay, pretty easy. And there's ways to randomize a lot of this too, and we'll get into that later. I want to show a basic setup though first. So we got the front gate guarded. We got a little bit of a back gate here. Let's say maybe their back gate's not as well guarded. So you know we'll put another rifleman. We'll put an auto rifleman down here, as well as an ammo bearer kind of hanging out with him. They're chatting. They're longtime friends. Okay. They didn't staff the tower with anyone today, though. Okay. I think we have another exit over here, so I would imagine maybe they, you know, they have another guard over here. But maybe this guard, maybe he's just not paying attention as well as he should be, right? So maybe he's a little bit more inside the line and kind of not focused out where he should be. You can place weaknesses in like that if you want. And again, there's ways to randomize some of this stuff. Okay, so we got some basic guards in our area here. I'll switch to the map view. So you can quickly see here, we got 1 guard over here, 3 guards at the front, and 2 guards up here at the north. Okay, so it's already starting to fill out. So we need to get kind of think about our objective again. Now our objective is going to be to clear this encampment, but maybe you want your primary objective is to kill a commander on site, right? So generally what I do for that is I'll pick, you know, an officer or someone in this group, and I'll place them down. Now, let's say he doesn't look special enough, kind of a high-value target, so I can right-click on him and go down to Edit Loadout. This will take me to Bohemia's Virtual Arsenal, okay? And from here, I can kind of edit his loadout. So maybe I don't want him to be armed at all. He's the commander. He has no reason to arm himself. He's got plenty of guards. I want to kind of make him, you know, really stand out. So maybe I will, you know, let's look through our options here. Maybe I'll give him a gray cap, and you know what? Maybe he's not. Maybe he's wearing this sort of deal. You know what? No. Let's put him in a gray cap. And I do this in a lot of my missions sometimes. High-value targets, for example, I tend to give, like, they're wearing berets. And the idea there is just so that my unit kind of knows what to look for, so I don't have to give physical descriptions of every character I create for a mission. I think of one easy hook that can always tell them, okay, the HVT is wearing a beret. Okay, you can think of your own hooks like that if you want. In the case of this guy, though, he's going to be wearing the gray cap. I want him wearing a little bit more of a, excuse me, I apologize about my voice. I want him wearing a little bit more of a set of fatigues, kind of officer's fatigues. So I'm going to check out a few options here. I kind of like that. But let's say he's not wearing any vest. Okay, so this is what he looks like. Hit OK. Back in the mission, so he's in there. He's looking good. Okay, he kind of stands out from the rest of the rabble a little bit if you look at them. Okay. So we got our high value target inside, and maybe we got a lightly armed soldier on top, and maybe another guard right outside the building. Okay. Maybe internally our HVT has one guard inside as well. Okay. Now we can furnish this room a little bit. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, right now we've set units down as individual units, but I can link those units too. So this group over here, I want them as a small fire team. Okay, so I just link them together, holding down control and dragging to the other unit. Okay, so now this is a unit, or sorry, a group. This guy's just a single guy down here. This group down here, they're kind of working together, so I'm going to group them up, okay? Alright, so we're starting to get some organization. Next thing I want to do is kind of place a little bit more of the ambiance stuff, okay? We're not trying to make this mission super hard, so be super careful about how many enemies you put down. You don't want to put down 50 enemies for 2 guys to take out. That's going to turn into a bloodbath, unless that's what you're going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cars here, and I'm going to put down a fuel truck. Remember, I can hold down Alt to make it go down with no playable units in control of it. Or sorry, with no units inside controlling it. So it goes from red to orange here as if I go empty. So I'm going to place it empty. Okay. See no units are inside of it. Place that there. Maybe over here is like a small motor pool. Again, I'm holding down the Alt button when I place these so that they'll go empty. Okay, so put in a couple vehicles here, just like they've been parked. Again, you're trying to create a semi-natural scenario. Maybe there's another repair truck or another off-road truck parked over here. And remember, everything you place down, you can alter the values of. So this truck right here, if I want to make sure this truck doesn't have a lot of fuel, I can bring the fuel down a little bit. Okay, just by double-clicking on it and you know, bringing that fuel level down. Okay. I can also put certain objects inside of it. I can make its probability of presence 50%, which means sometimes it will spawn in, sometimes it won't. It gives it a little bit of randomness. Okay. I can make the vehicle already sort of damaged. I can lock the vehicle if I want, etc., etc. There's a lot of features here. Maybe up here they have a helicopter. Now the FIA doesn't have a helicopter here, but I'm going to go into civilian, go to helicopters, and I'm going to put down one of these M900s. I'm going to hold down Alt so it goes down empty, and then boom, there it is. Okay. I want, if Blue 4 happens to use this helicopter to exfil, though, I want them to have a little bit of challenge. So I'm going to drop the fuel down to almost nothing. So if they do steal the chopper, they're not going to have a lot of time to play around with it. Okay. Okay, so we're starting to get something here. Let's go back in our command and control building here. Okay. We need to kind of give this a little bit of furniture. Now you don't need a lot, but you might want to dress it up a little bit. So I'm going to go back into props over here. By the way, the buttons E and R on your keyboard will remove and or hide and reveal these 2 panels. These are all your assets. These are all what's currently in your mission. Okay. So I'm going to go to furniture and maybe camping, because these guys are kind of out in this old abandoned complex out in the middle of the woods. I'm going to go to camping table. You get a little preview picture there too, which is kind of cool. Choose our camping table and we'll place it down. And you'll notice it doesn't place at the angle I want it to, so I'm going to hold down Shift, click and drag to rotate. Okay. And you don't have to be perfect. You mainly just want to get it to where it's not intersecting with any walls. Sometimes I move over here just to double check it's all clean. And then maybe, and while I'm on tables, so I'm not constantly hopping around, sometimes I'll look for a place to place another table. So maybe there's a smaller table over here, okay? All right. Maybe we have a wooden table right here. Maybe this is kind of a prep table. I need to move my guy, though, because he's right in the way. Now, the cool thing is once I've got a few tables out, I can continue to dress that up. You know, add a chair for, again, a little ambiance. You can't really sit down in the game. But, you know, it adds a little something if you have some of these objects in here. It feels a little bit more lived in. Okay. The great thing is once you've laid some of this out, you can go into things, and you can find all kinds of interesting stuff to place down. Okay, so a lot of times what I'll do is place down camping lantern. I usually do that in case I decide to run the mission at night. There'll be some light in here. Sometimes I'll lay down stuff like some intel. We'll get into how to make these intel documents a little bit more meaningful in game in terms of them giving you more intelligence. But again, adding them down adds a little bit of ambiance. Maybe go into electronics. You know, maybe I want to put down a, you know, maybe they have a camera up here. Maybe there's a satellite phone they're using for communication back to home base, etc. So very quickly I'm starting to build something up here, okay? Maybe over here, I want to place down a laptop, right? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can play with there. Maybe I want to kind of make this feel a little threatening, so I'll go into weapons down here and grab a weapon and just place it on the table like one of them left their gun up there. Again, just adds a little bit of flavor to this, okay? Alright. So we're really starting to get something here. Now let's talk about patrols, okay, and waypoints. Let's say I want a group that patrols this area. They kind of walk around Camp Maxwell constantly, just kind of patrolling the general area. This is how I'm going to do that. I'm going to set down a unit first, okay? For that, I'm going to go into Op4. I'm going to go into Compositions, FIA, Infantry, and they already got a patrol team down here, which looks to be 4 people. So I can plop them down. You can see they're already grouped. Maybe I don't want my patrol team to be 4 people. Maybe I only want them to be a 2-man squad. I can highlight both of these guys and just delete them. Okay, so now I'm left with my 2-man patrol. And what I do is I click on the unit and I hold down Shift and do my right mouse button, and that will place a waypoint. Okay, that is a waypoint that they will then move to. So if I double click on this waypoint, it's a move waypoint. Okay, and that means they're going to move from here to here. Once I've placed one waypoint, it's usually a good point to double click on it and change the state of it. If you want your units to be calm from the start and kind of patrolling around, not thinking anything, you know, not knowing that Blue 4 is going to attack them that night, I generally put them on limited speeds. It means they're walking. And I'll put their behavior is safe, okay, which means their guns down, they're walking casual. If you go careless, you may experience AI that feels a little broken, because careless means they won't really react to anything. If you do something like aware or combat, they're going to walk around with their guns up, so they already look spooked. Okay, we don't want them to be spooked. You can change the combat mode in terms of the ROE, and you know, change what kind of formation they walk in. So we'll have them walking in a file formation. So I've got my first one marked. Now I can click off of that waypoint or click on it, and it just gets a little darker. Once I'm on it, I can continue to hold down Shift and press my right mouse button to then continue that waypoint line, okay? So maybe I'll have them walk over here to the helicopter, and then they'll walk down here a little bit, and maybe they'll walk down here. You don't have to have the waypoints go around every little object. They'll find their way around. They'll path themselves. Maybe from here, they'll walk through the forest to this tree line break. So if we zoom out, you'll see we got our camp up here. These guys are starting at the front gate, walking to the helicopter, walking to this clearing, walking down to this little extension to the compound here, and then walking to the tree line. That way they can kind of observe out to the I guess this would be the west. Once they leave there, they're going to walk back up here, kind of close to the compound. They'll check out this entry here, and then they will make their way back around to the front. Okay, boom. Now, right now, this little path from their last waypoint to their first waypoint is broken. But what I can do is double click on this and change it from a move waypoint to a cycle waypoint, okay, which will means it'll cycle, and this will automatically magnetically connect to whatever it's nearest. So it's nearest to the unit now, so we want to move it a little bit near to this first waypoint. See how it connects there when I move it around? So we want it to be here. This means when they get to their last waypoint, they're going to continue back on to the first waypoint and just keep cycling. So they're going to keep walking this pattern. Okay, and we can see that a little bit more clearly when we go to the map view. You can see their walking pattern here. These are our paths we laid out. Now, what if you want there to be a little bit of randomness in there? You want them to walk somewhere in here, but you don't exactly know where. You don't want to know exactly where they're at. You can double click on this and go down to in waypoint transformation, completion radius, put it at like 100. Well, maybe not that high. Let's go to 50. That means this waypoint is going to appear somewhere within this circle here, okay? Let's see. Actually, wait a minute. So I did a completion radius of 50. That is the distance in meters in which the unit has to be in order for the waypoint to be considered complete. So that's probably not what I want to do. What I want to do is do the placement radius at 50, okay? That gives you the dashed line. That just means this waypoint is going to spawn somewhere in this line, but I don't totally know where. So if I do that to all my waypoints, right? I can do this one maybe at 10. That means that waypoint for here and here is going to be pretty random. The unit could be over here, they could be down here. It gives it a lot of flexibility, and that randomness can be as big or small as you want. Okay. Another way to adjust randomness is, remember how I set this as two units? Well, maybe the second unit here, I double click on him, and I put his, scroll down, I put his probability of presence to 50%. That means now, and his is at 100%, his is at 50%. That means now every time I play this mission, he'll always be here and always doing this patrol. This guy will only be there half the time. Okay, so again, adds a little bit of randomness. Now by doing these simple things, I now may think that there's a patrol, but I don't know where that patrol is exactly, and I don't know because they're not constantly moving and their waypoints are being randomly placed. But then also I don't know if it's one guy, two guys, three guys. So again, very easily you can put some randomness into your mission. Okay. So right away we got kind of a scenario. Okay. So we're going to start getting into some of our tool sets up here too in just a minute. But within a matter of 30 minutes, we've already kind of created a bit of a play out here. We got a start point over here. We got an objective area, and then an exfiltration site, which will just be reaching the boat again. Okay. So the next thing we're going to go into is, from this point, you can really start play testing your mission to some degree. Okay, and there's some great tools that BI has given us to enable some of that play testing to happen a little faster. So stay tuned. We're going to go into play testing in just a moment.